We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
Well, shut the front door. What an episode. Boysen and I are coming off the tail end of a fun little discussion here. We're excited for you to hear it. And if you are listening to this with little ones in the background, you should be forewarned that
there may be some colorful language in this episode. It's not a lot, but there's some colorful language in the episode.
Yeah, they sneak in. I had to quote one of my mentors who has a potty mouth. Shame on him. But in order to do the quote justice, I had to say it.
That's right.
Verbatim.
Dene.
So, Dene. Shout out to Dene. So enjoy this episode of the Mankind Podcast and get the little ones out of the room. Peace. G'day, and welcome to another recording of the Mankind Podcast, the show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove
that there is indeed more than one way to be a man.
We are simplifying manhood.
We are complicating old, worn out, tired memes about what it means to be a man.
Okay, let me reframe. We're making it more simple for you to show up as a man in your life.
We will do that, yes, as the man you are.
Bingo. And I am with my co-host Boysen today, which we try and do a couple of times a quarter. And it's always a good time and often goes off the rails. So buckle
What's
up.
What's
and
up?
enjoy the
What's
journey. And today we're diving into a topic that may just challenge a lot of what we've been taught about parenting. Now, you've probably heard the message: if you just get the right mix of discipline, praise, and enrichment, you can sculpt the perfect kid.
Right. Yeah. And if your kid is not doing what you want them to do and not turning out how you're expecting them to turn out, well, you must be doing something wrong. It's your fault. And this clip challenges that a lot.
So today we are reacting to a short from the Instagram page Rebuild Today. It came across my feed. I sent it to Boysen and we both went, wow, we got to talk about this. It's powerful and it flips the script on how many of us have been taught to believe our role as parents, what our role actually is. And it's grounded in decades of behavioral genetics research, especially the work of Plömen and von Stumm.
Yes, pronunciation questionable.
Plömen and von Stumm. It may not be pronounced that way. But it reveals something both freeing and a little confronting. Parenting matters, yes, but maybe not in the way we've been led to believe.
Yeah, this is absolutely something that I have run into as a parent. It's been deeply part of the conversation that Kendra and I have had. Our kids are not blank slates, even if, your birth children are not blank slates. No child is a blank slate. They show up with their own wiring, their own temperament, their own emotional sensitivities, even social stuff. Like from the get, they are their own person.
Yeah. And you think, oh, nature, nurture, 50-50. Well, maybe not. Because as this video will show, there are over 400 different psychological, I don't know, what do you call them, markers or whatever? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be explained in much greater detail as you listen along with us. And we're going to comment live that, yeah, maybe your kids are determined to be a certain way, wired a certain way, but how can we create environments in which they can thrive the best that they can? Anyway, don't want to bury the lead here. So if you're listening right now and parenting isn't about shaping kids like clay anymore, well, what is it about? We're going to unpack that, and we're going to talk about what the science really says, what the role of a good enough parent actually looks like, and how we can stop striving for perfection and start being present instead. Boysen, I can't tell you how exhausted I am from being perfect all the time. I'm ready to take a break.
Well, you should definitely just send me text messages anytime you're worried about being perfected, and I can knock you off of that pedestal.
You and my wife. Great. Alrighty, so we're going to pull up our clips, listen along with us, and you will hear our commentary.
You need to understand something that parents these days have long since forgot and are going to have to relearn again. Your grandparents knew this, but today's generation of parents doesn't seem to. And that is, you do not get to design your children. Nature would never have permitted that to happen. Evolution would not have allowed a generation of a species to be so influenced by the previous generation. It hasn't happened, and it doesn't happen, and it especially doesn't happen in children. You do not design your children. And yet we have the Mozart effect, the belief that if I play classical music to my uterus when I'm pregnant, I'm going to have a genius. The fact that if I can just put enough crib toys over his crib, he is going to have all these neurons exploding with synapses and be a brilliant mathematician. You don't get that degree of power. Does that mean stimulation doesn't matter? No. It means a stimulation environment is better than a deprived environment. But it doesn't mean that the more stimulation you add into the environment, the better it gets. It's a threshold. There is enough stimulation that every normal brain needs to develop. And once you're past that, which 98% of you are, the rest of it is out of your hands. So, what we have learned in the last 20 years of research in neuroimaging, behavior genetics, developmental psychology, neuropsychology can be boiled down to this phrase. Your child is born with more than 400 psychological traits that will emerge as they mature, and they have nothing to do with you. So the idea that you are going to engineer personalities and IQ and academic achievement skills and all these other things just isn't true.
Okay, wow. That message can land like the touch of a feather or a kick to the nuts.
400 traits. What?
400 psychological traits that have nothing to do with you. Wow. 20 years of research too. So, as a father of a daughter, and as someone who has, along with my wife, made sure that she was in organic sheets and an organic mattress, and that nap times have been religious at the same time, and that she's never had red food dye in anything she's ever eaten, and all these different things, all these ways that we've tried to, no screens, right? All things that we've put into place to ensure that our daughter has the best outcomes possible. But it's also like, how much of it's futile? In a way, I don't know. I'm left in that kind of in between. I do believe in what we're doing and our choices,
Yeah, right.
But it's also unsurprising that you see kids who have had every opportunity laid at their feet with necessary challenges, silver spoon, and they are in and out of rehab for 30 years.
Yeah. I think for me, it gets me to focus less on, again, it's like we're pointing at ourselves rather than pointing at the kids and saying, okay, what is it about me that is hooked in to this level of control and this level of believing that I'm going to be able to influence and change another human being? And I've absolutely, as an adoptive parent even, right, absolutely been hooked into that. And I didn't meet my kids until they were 10 and 7 when we met. They had already lived a whole lifetime of nurture stuff. They had already gotten a whole lot of stuff, but there's so many things that this is like a release. It's like, okay, what if I relax? Yeah.
What also, for me, gives me that sense of, it's kind of like, I got to pass in a way. So if I mess up and when I wound my kids, I can be like, But the awareness around how am I controlling the uncontrollable? And we have a lot of agency with our daughter now because she's 2. She is dependent on us for survival. At what point does that transform into something dysfunctional? Right.
Totally. Yeah. And that absolutely rings for me too. So part of the influence that we have on our kids is we are modeling for them how to handle stress about issues like control. And I know for me that the more controlling, the more like, the more I'm holding tight to what it's supposed to be, like that's a negative influencer for my kids. That's like negative environmental reinforcement. Yeah.
So in summary, 20 years of research condensed that 400 psychological traits, your kids already have them, and it's the environments they're placed in that are going to have those things surface, and they will show up in all these different ways. And we as parents do not have control of what that is going to look like. So what do you say we continue?
Yeah.
Your child is not a blank slate on which you get to write. Your child is a genetic mosaic of your extended family, which means this is a unique combination of the traits that run in your family line. I like the shepherd view. You are a shepherd. You don't design the sheep. The engineering view makes you responsible for everything. everything that goes right and everything that goes wrong. This is why parents come to us with such guilt, more guilt than we've ever seen in prior generations, because parents today believe that it's all about them and what they do. And if they don't get it right, or if their child has a disability, they've done something wrong, when in fact the opposite is true. This has nothing to do with your particular brand of parenting.
So the engineer view versus the shepherd. Again, it's not about you. You know, interestingly, we've had Dene Maria Sebastiana on the show. I affably call him the Yoda of MKP. One of the OGs, been around for a while. And he told me when I called him, I said, hey, yo, my girlfriend's pregnant. Imbue all of your parenting wisdom onto me right now.
Download it into Brandon.
And he said, in very much a Dene way, he's like, it's not all the good things you're going to do. He's going to hate that I'm doing his voice. It's not all the good things you're going to do. It's the way you're going to fuck them up. I was like, ooh. It's like, he goes, there will be greater lessons in the wounding when you wound your child than all the ways you tried to hedge by trying to do everything right. The right school, the right friends, the right neighborhood, the right all these things. And that was profound for me, because it gave me the insight and awareness to not come into parenthood with this idea that I have to be perfect. I have to fix every mistake my parents ever made, or I have to be just as amazing as they were in these areas. And it was like, you know what? Day at a time.
Yeah. I like the focus in this part of the clip that he talks about in this generation of parents, right? So I'm older than you. I was raised by boomers. The idea of, being left out in the wild when I was a kid and allowed, the pastures that I was in were actual literal pastures that I was in as a kid. And then so many of the parents of my generation, of Gen X generation, like, because we were kind of left on our own so much, we are helicopter parents, and we are trying to control everything. And we are trying to like maintain all the boundaries, and we're trying to eliminate all the weeds and all the disasters and all the hurts and all the everything from our kids' worlds. And that's not really the point, right? The number of dangerous situations that I put myself into completely unsupervised as a child was actually good for me. And I think that this idea of being a shepherd is like, the shepherd isn't standing right there all the time. The shepherd's over there. Yeah.
So this, and interesting, you say that, all the dangerous things you got into, me too. And I immediately think, oh gosh, Bindi can't do those same things. She's not allowed to do those same things.
Right.
Jumping off this, building a fort in that.
Right.
Having to get tetanus shots because I have too many rusty nail, scratches in my skin from building forts with rusty nails. Like, just things like that. Or the areas of town I ended up on my skateboard and bike, just looking for adventure. So, yeah, very interesting. This next bit, the way he brings it home is huge. So we'll continue.
So I would rather that you stop thinking yourself as an engineer and step back and say, I am a shepherd to a unique individual. Shepherds are powerful people. They pick the pastures in which the sheep will graze and develop and grow. They determine whether they're appropriately nourished. They determine whether they're protected from harm. The environment is important, but it doesn't design the sheep. No shepherd is going to turn a sheep into a dog. Ain't going to happen, right? And yet that is what we see parents trying to do all the time, and especially parents of children with disabilities. So step back and view yourself as the shepherd to this disabled youngster, and you get to design the pasture, and that's very important, but you don't engineer the sheep. Now, that comes with it a profoundly freeing view of parenting, because what it means is, although it's important to be a shepherd, recognizing that this is a unique individual before you allows you to enjoy the show, right? So open a bottle of Chardonnay, kick off your slippers, sit back and watch what takes place, because you don't get to determine this, right? So enjoy it. It doesn't last all that long anyway. They're gone before you know it, right? But if you think that what you did in your house is going to shape the life course of this individual, you are sadly mistaken, right? This is a unique individual. Let them grow, let them prosper. Please design appropriate environments around them, but you don't get to design them.
So we've got to give a shout out. Dr. Russell Barkley.
Right.
All right. Dr. Russell Barkley, retired clinical professor of psychiatry at VCU Medical Center until 2022, an American clinical neuropsychologist. So he may have some authority on the topic.
A little expertise, maybe a little knowledge,
bit.
maybe a little history.
You're not just gleaning this from the infinite wisdom of Brandon and Boysen.
So what I love about the kind of last bits here about design the environment, absolutely design the environment. And then it also puts the onus back on me and this idea of modeling and the idea of I'll go first that we bring into the podcast a lot, right? So who am I designing the environment for? Hello, me first, right? Like the idea that if I want my kids to not be reliant on screens constantly and the dopamine hit and all of that kind of stuff, then what I'm modeling is way more important than what I'm forcing onto my kids or trying to control in my kids. And at some level, it's just like I can be frustrated and I can be whatever it is that I want, that my kids aren't doing exactly what I want them to do. And all I can do is keep doing those things in the environment for me and the world around me that I want them to say, 20 years from now, they'll look back and they'll say, oh yeah, that was a thing that we did in our house. I remember that. I remember. Mm-hmm. You don't go to bed with dishes in the sink. Like simple ass stuff, right? That they will look back and see is like, oh, that's me tending to the environment, not controlling them, but tending to the environment.
You leaking that though, saying that you don't go to bed with dishes in the sink. I'm gonna guess that you really hope that is left with them.
Oh yeah, things like this, right? Things like this, and as much shit as I have given Jordan Peterson, get up and make your bed. Mm-hmm. Like those kinds of things, right? The modeling that we do for very simple things.
But you're talking first and foremost about being your own shepherd.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so as a parent, how many times have you tried to turn the sheep that are in front of you into dogs? Because I love...
How many times today?
Shepherds don't get to change sheep.
Today,
how many times today?
Or like in a week or like in a month? Like how many times are we talking about? What's the scale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It is. And pour a soda, grab some juice, grab some coffee, whatever it is, and enjoy the show. I'm terrible at that. Like 75% of the time I'm terrible at that. Mm-hmm. But something else that I have some influence and some control over is like my attitude toward what I see going on and my relationship with Kendra and how we allow each other and invite each other to just kind of say, hey, there it is.
Yeah.
Not much we're going to do to change it.
We're finding that a lot, that we're trying to like prescribe some of my daughter's behavior as, oh, that's mum. Oh, that's dad. Oh, that was you right there. It should be like, oh, that was you. And then there's times where I'm like, who did? That's neither of us. What she just did is neither of us. Like the fact that this kid knows what she wants, speaks her mind, doesn't flinch before answering questions.
Oof.
That's neither of us.
Mm.
We're both people that have to run it through systems and formulas. And she's, nope, this is me. So that's cool. What a force.
That's good.
I want to shout out Dr. Russell Barkley. Brilliant stuff. I want to shout out as well the Instagram channel Rebuild Today. We'll have links to them in the show notes. One of my favorite channels. They post some really brilliant stuff. And so, Boysen, how might you take the lessons from today's discussion and apply it to your parenting?
I think that the enjoy the show part, that's really difficult for me. I get myself wrapped around my beliefs. I get myself wrapped around thinking that I messed up, that I didn't do enough, that I didn't do when things are going. And it's like, yeah, okay. It's the drama. It's the play that's here. It's the stage that we're on. Can I just observe from a less attached place?
I love that. So that's a big one for me. And I think I'll also say is recognizing all the different things that my wife and I are doing to try and set our daughter up for success. the 529 college savings fund and all these little things. How much is it coming from a place of wanting a positive outcome as opposed to hedging a negative outcome? And how much of my controller is coming up in that? Because we've had to be in control because the life of our child depends on it.
Yeah.
Right? But as she transitions into toddlerhood, as she transitions into being a young girl, we're going to have to let go and give her a longer leash and let her explore and make more mistakes. And we do a pretty good job at that. So it's just a good reminder, nonetheless.
And real world experience with sheep. If the fence is not up and sealed and electrified and well put together, they're gone. So like a shepherd has an immense amount of responsibility just in terms of creating the boundaries around things. Sheep are unbelievably, I don't have great experience with sheep.
Where in your LinkedIn does it have sheep herder? I never noticed that about. This is something new, Boysen.
I'm the son of a veterinarian. I have experience with all them animals. And sheep are they call them sheep. The whole stereotypes about sheep, they're all true.
They're all true. I have a hard time. I get triggered when I see sheep because when I worked on a farm when I was a teenager, I had to help shear them and more so hold them down. One, they're strong little bastards.
Oh yeah. Very
strong. And one kicked me right in the left testicle. And when you're getting them in to get sheared, their feet and everything are just covered in poop and they're just kicking and whatever. And it nailed me. Solid hit, not a nick, solid hit. And so every time I see sheep, it kind of comes back.
So what you want to leave all of the male listeners with is that visceral experience of getting kicked in the nads.
Some of the greatest lessons don't come from the touch of a feather, Boyce, and I already mentioned that previously. Sometimes you need a good kick in the nuts. And on that note, this has been another episode of the Mankind Podcast, the show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove
that there's more than one way to be a man.
You got it, mate. Have we proven that today?
Hell yes.
Hell yes. Lots of love. See you next week.
Peace.
This has been another episode of the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. We have been your hosts, Boysen Hodgson and myself, Brandon Clift, and we want to thank our guests for joining us today and imparting their wisdom from their experiences in this amazing journey called life. If you want to find out more about today's guests and support them in their mission, you can find links to them in the show notes. Now, if you have found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, we are always grateful for a rating and review of the show on iTunes. Now, above all else, we've got to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you have made it possible for us to let men all over the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if something in this episode has touched you, then perhaps it is the call to action to get involved in men's work. With live trainings happening constantly and in-person trainings happening all over the world, the Mankind Project definitely has something for you. Now, if you've enjoyed the music in this episode and all of our episodes, be sure to check out Jim Donovan and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. And lastly, just know, what it means to me to be a man is completely different than what it means for you. That is the beauty of this journey. So if you are looking for guidance, support, and community as you begin to unpack and dive deeper into your men's work journey, then you know where to find us. Same place, same time, next week. Lots of love. We'll see you then.
Hey, it's Boysen here with the Mankind Podcast. We are closing in on 100 5-star reviews of this podcast, and we have a goal. Brandon and I want to get to 250 5-star reviews. So help us out, will you? Please go to the Mankind Podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a review. Thank you.
Your heart is the sun.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.